know about you guys, but this entire week leading into UFC 320 has been very underwhelming. There hasn't been a lot of hype. And in today's video, we're going to go through some of the numbers that back this up. And I'm also going to give you my theory as to why I don't think people are into this pay-per-view as some of the other stronger pay-per-views. Because if you think about it, you've got Alex Pereira on this card. You got 2 title fights. You got Yuri Prochazka. There should be more interest in this, but there just isn't. And if we go and look on the UFC's official YouTube channel, which has 21 million subscribers, 21.2, you're looking at some of these numbers here, and they are lower than usual. You look at the embedded series from, just under 9 hours ago, 153,000 views, which typically those get a lot higher. This embedded from a day or two ago, almost 300,000 views. Again, a bit lower than what we're used to. Almost 500,000 views for the embedded episode a couple days ago, but the countdown show 700,000 views. That's okay, but again, numbers should be a bit higher. And then you look here at the split up countdown show. Ankalaev Pereira is doing quite decent at 160,000 views, but Dvalishvili and Sandhagen just under 100,000. So these numbers are not what you're used to. And if you go and look at some of the past pay-per-views, the numbers are a lot different. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that. Obviously, the last pay-per-view with UFC 319 had Khamzat Chimaev. We know how big of a global superstar he is, but look at these numbers here. This countdown episode, 1 million views. You look at the weigh-ins, 1 million views, although we still have to calculate those at the time I'm recording here. Most of this stuff is doing quite well, and a lot of it does have to do with Chimaev, but you just see the numbers overall. These are a lot higher. Even like showing a... some of the stuff that happened at UFC 319, the face-offs, 500,000 views, the embedded series, those numbers are way higher. So that one, okay, let's just say for argument's sake, it's just because of Chimaev. That's why they got the bump there. Let's go to UFC 318, which if you remember going in, a lot of people weren't happy about that pay-per-view. We're getting the rematch with Dustin Poirier and Max Holloway. The co-main event was Paulo Costa and Roman Kopylov. And you look at the numbers here, even those seem a little bit higher, 500,000 views for the weigh-ins. You look at the, that was the post-fight interview, but if we go and look at some of the other numbers, like the embedded stuff on here, if I can find it. Look at this embedded, almost 700,000 views there, a little bit higher than what we're used to seeing. If we go look here, let me actually just click on the, that's 318 embedded. Let's go look at the entire playlist here and you can kind of get a better idea. Looking at some of these numbers here, although they're not showing them. This one was episode 6, 280,000 views. This was for the Paulo Costa one. Even that got 300,000 views there. You look at some of the other ones, episode 4, again, 366,000 views. So I just felt like even a couple pay-per-views ago, you're still getting people that are more into it. So, okay, let's just move on from the UFC's page. Let's go look at the Mac Life, which typically does get the best views out of any of the media outlets that are out there. And even for them here, okay, this was 11 minutes ago, 800 views, but you look at the weigh-ins from earlier, 45,000 views. We got the one press conference thing that popped a bit, 226,000 views, but outside of that, lower numbers here. The face-off with Pereira and Ankalaev, just 31,000 views a day ago. Even the McGregor stuff is viewing a lot better for BKFC. Merab Dvalishvili, 38,000 views. Corey Sandhagen, 57,000 views. For Mac Life, this is actually low numbers. Ankalaev from a couple days ago, 20,000 views. Khalil Rountree, 20,000 views. That to me says people are not into this card as much. Go look at MMA. We'll go to MMA Fighting first because they got more subscribers. 1.7 million subscribers. These numbers are pretty low here. Press conference, 19,000 views. That's kind of low for a channel that's got 1 million subscribers. The weigh-ins, 3,000 views, right? You're looking at the media day, 4,000 views when they stream the whole thing. 4,000 views for a channel that's got 1 million subscribers, that's very low. And I've talked about this before about how event coverage is not what it used to be. But look at this, Merab, 733 views, 773 views, I should say. Less than 1,000 views on a channel that's got 1 million subscribers. That to me says people aren't into it. Even Pereira, look at this, Pereira, 3,000 views. That's not much higher. MMA Junkie, similar story. The weigh-ins from earlier today, 348 views, right? Some of the face-offs are doing okay. Pereira's got 13,000 views there. That was the scrum that they had 3 days ago. Then there's the actual media day interview, 9,000 views. These numbers are a little bit higher, but still nothing that really catches your eye there. So, I've talked about this before about how event coverage is really not what people are into these days, but these numbers do feel a little bit lower. Now, let's get to my theory as to why I think UFC 320 is not getting maybe the love it deserves, or people aren't really into it. And I think you kind of look at this here. We're already getting this rematch. I think that's part of it too. Pereira lost his last fight. He's getting the rematch right away, which I understand. He had a couple title defenses. That's maybe worth it. But I think a lot of people feel like this fight's going to go similarly to the first fight with Ankalaev winning. Now, Pereira can obviously win. If you guys missed my preview on my channel, I've got it here on the UFC 320 playlist. I do think Ankalaev's going to win. Could Pereira beat him? Yes, he's got a puncher's chance. Absolutely, 5-round fight could happen. But I think most people kind of expecting Ankalaev to win. So there's not that much. Like if Pereira had fought another fight and maybe got another finish there and then came back, maybe there's a bit more hype there, but I kind of feel like for some reason this rematch is a bit too soon. I don't know, like just because we had this fight, less than a year ago, right? And then you've got Merab and Corey, same thing. I don't know many people picking Sandhagen here, and maybe that's a credit to Merab and how well he's performed. But Merab is, I think I talked about this on the preview show, he's the biggest betting favorite he's been since he's been a champion. Corey Sandhagen's a bigger underdog than both the Sean O'Malley fights. In fact, O'Malley was the favorite, I think, in the first fight against Merab. But I think, again, these outcomes are kind of predictable. I'm not saying Corey or Alex Pereira can't win. They absolutely can. But what I'm saying is these feel kind of predictable, and I just don't think there's much at stake here. Yuri and Khalil, probably one of the most intriguing fights on the card, right? It's, it's definitely a fight of the night, definitely exciting 3-round fight. But again, I just don't think like even this, as good as this fight is, you've got two guys that aren't really going to talk any trash. There's no real, like, other than the fight itself, there isn't a lot that you need to be invested in for this fight. It's also two guys that have, lost to Pereira as well. So I don't know if that helps. This fight's flying under the radar. Josh Emmett, Yusuf Zalal. Very good fight for the featherweight division. Emmett's a huge underdog, which I don't really understand. Like, I get that he's older, but I don't think Emmett should be plus 360. And you got a minus 500 favorite on there. And then opening up the card, you got another fun fight between Pyfer and Abus Magomedov. But I will say that these aren't really household names. And it's opening the pay-per-view. I think it's a good pay-per-view. I just think that the UFC is having a hard time trying to pull fans in and get interested in certain fights because, like I said, this just the makeup of this card looks like either a lot of predictable fights or a lot of champions, unfortunately, that I don't think people are that heavily invested in. I don't think people have caught on to Ankalaev, at least not in North America. Merab Dvalishvili, he does some funny skits and people are excited to, watch his dominance, but I don't think he's translated into being some big star. And I think also there's just a level of fatigue. I think, again, I preach about this all the time on the channel, but they do so many events that, a lot of times, like they're kind of losing sight of who they're selling their product to. And I think in a lot of cases, fans are just kind of like, yeah, I'll check it out if I can. Like, I am really curious to see what the numbers are going to be on the pay-per-view here because I don't think it's going to be one of the stronger pay-per-views, despite the fact that they have 2 title fights and they're in Vegas. Like, you look at all the pay-per-views they've had in Vegas over the last couple of years, they all do quite well. They all have that kind of that big fight feel, but we're not really getting that. And I think next month is going to be similar with Tom Aspinall and Cyril Gane. I think most people are picking Aspinall. Not to say that Gane can't win, but I think, again, it's kind of predictable here. Verna and Mackenzie Dern, I don't think anyone's really interested in that fight, to be honest. Right? Weili Zhang moving up. I don't know if people are into that. Volkov and Almeida's kind of a fun fight. So is Rakic and Murzakanov. You got Umar and Mario Batista adding some strength to this card. This is another one that I just wonder how the hype's going to be. I think Umar will get some attention, obviously. And Aspinall's got a decent following as well. But I don't know. I just kind of feel like this is something we got to take note of that I'm starting to notice more and more with the UFC pay-per-views. Like, obviously, last month with UFC 319, or 2 months ago, I should say, keep forgetting there was no pay-per-view in September. Chimaev there was a lot of intrigue there. How would Chimaev do in this title fight? There was some intrigue there because people really didn't know how DDP was going to do against Chimaev in the sense of, he had seemed to get all these wins before, he hadn't lost, and there was a reason to be invested here. And I just think, like, doing this rematch, I get them doing it. Again, I think Pereira deserves his rematch after all the title defenses. I just feel like we already saw this fight once. And yes, you could say maybe Pereira was compromised a bit, but I don't think people are really convinced that's the reason he lost. And I think that's why people are leaning Ankalaev and that he gets it done. So yeah, just wanted to do a quick video on this. Something I've noticed, sort of leading into this week. I just am not feeling this fight week. And I don't think I'm alone. I think a lot of people are kind of underwhelmed by this pay-per-view, despite them having 2 title fights. So let me know in the comments what you think. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Are you guys amped for tomorrow night's card? Let me know. I'm going to be watching it. I'll be doing the post-fight show, but let me know in the comments what your thoughts are in this entire fight week. Doesn't it feel a bit underwhelming? You guys let me know. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.